right, back-to-back weeks, Fierce Fighting Championship 35 live from the Mountain America Center, right back to Idaho Falls once again. Blake O'Rulian, Zach Partridge for this fight week preview. Saturday night, 8-day turnaround. Zach, how you feeling?
Oh boy, these back-to-back weekends, September and November. I can tell you this, Fierce fans, I hope you guys enjoy it because it will never happen again.
I appreciate that as well, personally. It's look,
Yeah,
there has been a lot of lead up time to get this done, but I've done way too much prep over the past couple of weeks, dealing with these bike.
yeah,
But
yeah.
fourth time in Idaho, always a great time there. The Idaho crowd always seems to show up and support. Just always excited to fill up a place with the magnitude that is the Mountain America Center.
Yeah, it's a really fun venue. It's a fun crowd. There's a lot of fun to be had at the fights, and it's one thing that's interesting when why we go up there. When they built that arena, we were the first thing that was in that arena that wasn't a hockey game. We were the first sporting event that wasn't hockey in there. And it's because the people up there said when they sent out polls to the surrounding area of, hey, what do you guys want to see at this venue? And the community large in part said we want MMA, and so that's why we're there, and they come out and support, and it's really fun.
Well, 12 fights are coming their way. John Smith, Dalton Moon at 135 pounds. John Smith, obviously the Idaho native. As for Dalton Moon, his second fight this year, coming off of that debut fight in July.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. Both just guys remind me of just scrappy guys, right? John has always been Mr. Reliable fight. He's fought 125, 135, 145, short notice, full camp, whatever. He fights a lot. And, you know, uh, it's really interesting to see because, somebody like Dalton, who's just really scrappy, they kind of remind me, stylistically a little bit of each other. Maybe not the most technical in the world, but down to scrap. But I think we're going to kick off the card with a really, really good fight with two guys that, if nothing else, they're exciting.
All right, following suit is going to be James Prescott and Harrison Chandler. James Prescott, his third fight in 5 months, coming off of that loss, unfortunately, a couple of months ago at Warehouse 22. As for Harrison Chandler, he's making his debut. 33 jiu-jitsu matches for him in the last 12 months coming out of Pac Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, really interesting. Jimmy just wanted to get one more in this year, but he's about to become a dad, new dad, everything. Get that last fight in because he's gonna have to take a break. The one thing that I love about Jimmy is, like you said, he lost his last fight, but man, he was right back in the gym and right back to work. Did not deter his motivation or anything else. Love fighters like that. Love people that win or lose, they're just building. It's about the experience, and he's just in grind mode right now. Wants to fight, wants to get that experience, and he's one of the hardest workers in the room. Harrison reaches out after the card was pretty much done. Local guy says, "Hey, I really want to fight on this card. We love the guys at Pac Jiu-Jitsu. We're going to talk about, Preston Carlson originally came from there, Spencer Woodland. We'll miss you, Spencer. He's going to be out of the country for this card, unfortunately. But and when Harrison said, "Hey, I want to fight," I'm like, I know somebody who'll say yes. And it was Jimmy Prescott. So two really good grapplers. It should be a lot of fun.
Lots more fun to be had in this one at 145 pounds. Michael Lazalde, Zach Spritzer. Lazalde, his fourth fight in 2024, looking to scratch that win column here on Saturday night. As for Zach Spritzer, his first time out of Montana, fighting at a DPCS in Montana.
Man, Michael Lazalde, I really, really like what he's doing, what he's done. His record is not sexy, but all three guys that he's lost to, he's 1-3, right? Malachi Novosel, up a weight class. Preston Carlson, 2-0, up a weight class. Nate Ayers, who we just watched, like, he's fighting really tough competition too. He's not saying no. So it's going to be really interesting. Then Zach Spritzer, wanting 135, coming up to 145, coming off the long layoff. One of these trend, like, usually guys off long layoffs, ring rust, people talk about stuff like that. Guy trying to, get going in the right direction after taking some really tough losses. Like, one of these trends has got to break here, and I'm really interested to see which one. But Michael always comes to throw hands, and I know that, and I'm excited to see what Zach brings to the cage.
Another one I'm really interested in here on these prelims at middleweight, Vincent Vanisi. and Santiago Izukar. Vincent Vanisi coming down to 185 pounds, similar to like you were just talking about with Zach Spritzer going up. Another kind of change in the weight class. Vanisi going down to middleweight. Santiago Izukar will be facing him, one of three out of Guerrilla Unit MMA out of Idaho Falls.
Well, yeah, and the real thing with Vincent, remember when he took his last fight against Parker in July down in Price, he was on his way to fighting at 185, took a
Right.
short notice fight for us at 205. He was already walking under 205 when he took that fight. He looks fantastic. He's an 85er. He was even one of those ones he's like, I think I can. He's lost so much weight and made so much progress in that area. He's like, maybe I get down to 70. He's an 85er, very good striker, very good boxing, hard headed. But his downfalls always come down to his jujitsu and his grappling. And I think he's grown in that area. Santi is the type of guy that's going to test that, though. I know he's done some jiu-jitsu tournaments. I know that's, he's a tough kid too on the feet, but when I think of Santi, I think of a tough grappler. So we're gonna see. It's gonna be very interesting.
Nikola Privulj versus Marconis Alves. We'll make sure to get those correct because those are some tougher names than normal. But Alves coming out of Empower Fitness, one of two on this card, a new gym. We haven't seen them at Fierce Fighting Championship. As for Nikola, he's never gone past the 2 minute mark in either of his fights, his third of 2024.
Yeah, really interesting. Marconius, yeah, he's been hitting me up for a while. We're excited to have Empower at Fierce. I'm grateful for them making the trip up to Idaho Falls, and hopefully we'll have him on some Salt Lake City cards in the near future as well. You talk about both those guys. When you think about it and you look at them, you just think about tough guys that are down to fight. And I love gyms like that. There are gyms that have characteristics. And if you want to be a gym if you're a newer gym and you're trying to make your way in with the local promotions, whether it's with Fierce or Steel Fist or up in Idaho at Front Street or Revolution Cage Combat up in Idaho, wherever, like we're in these areas and you're trying to make your one thing that's really important is you got to be down to take fights and do things. Jacob Baird going, oh, we're not on Jacob yet, but he is going up a weight class.
Yeah.
Marconius being flexible. We had one opponent in, what didn't ended up not working out. Um, so when Nicola became available and we offered it to him, they just said yes. They just want to be on the card. He just wants to get fights. That's what I love. Those are the type of people I like working with. So um, I think we're in for a really good one. It's sneaky out of the unknowns to the Fierce fans. I think this one's gonna be a really sneaky good fight.
Speaking of fights that are flying under the radar, when I think of this one, you and I have talked behind closed doors. This might be the best amateur fight we've ever put on. Tristan McDonald, Oleg Mikov. Both fighters just 1-0. However, they come from deep, deep wrestling roots. Tristan McDonald, a former wrestler out of Iowa. As for Oleg Mikov, a silver medalist at the World Beach Wrestling Championships. I want to make sure I get that title correct. 35-day turnaround for Mikov. As for Tristan McDonald, Zach, 111 jiu-jitsu matches from April of 2021 until now. And there's probably a couple of more that aren't on Smooth Comp. But that being said, what a grappler's delight we've got on hand to headline the prelims.
I mean, most people you're entertained by the battle on the feet, right? They want to see the striking. They don't you don't really want to see the two heavy grapplers. Some of the best stand-up bangers are between two grapplers, though. I mean, don't be surprised if they just decide, hey, you know what? We're not going to grapple. Grappling's exhausting, but if you have an advantage there, that's why you go there. It's going to be really interesting to see who grapples first in this fight. It is an MMA fight. It starts on the feet. We're not starting, in a wrestling stance or on our butts like a jiu-jitsu roll. Like, very interesting, and we're gonna see who can get their hands and everything going first, and maybe blend in their grappling better, or they might but just be like my grappling versus yours. Let's do it, and they might just walk right into a clinch and just start going. So I don't know, but like you said, these are two guys too can't really get fights for. Um, Mr. Oleg Mikov, he's been asking to fight for a while. We couldn't get anybody that was really comfortable fighting somebody because there's not a lot of footage on there. We know he's got some what is it called? Pinkration or whatever fights over in overseas. but no real footage on him. It's like it makes people uncomfortable because you can go look up and see his background and his pedigree. Tristan, you talk about a high level purple belt jujitsu grappler. Oh, by the way, he also wrestled at Iowa. Like they're monsters, man, and nobody wants to fight them. So why don't you all just fight each other and we'll see what happens.
The fans are in for a treat. Circle that one on your program. If you're using the digital program, which you can scan the QR code, we put it everywhere. You can just make sure to keep an eye on that one because it is going to be incredible. All right. Cutting the curtain on the main card is going to be Isaac Allen and Preston Carlson. Isaac Allen coming off of that fight of the night versus Austin Munoz in March. As for Preston Carlson, he's been successful. 2 straight submissions for him and a 2-0 record at 155 pounds.
Yeah, really interesting. We talked about Preston Carlson. His last fight was against Michael Lizaldi up there again, guy coming up from weight class. Um, his fight before that, fought a really tough fight. I feel like Isaac Allen is a big step up, like test wise for him. Isaac brings a lot of power, a lot of athleticism in his own right, hits hard, and will oblige in those striking advantages. I or in those striking areas. One thing that was really interesting is Isaac showed he was in a couple positions to potentially finish some guillotines and finish that fight with Austin Munoz and wasn't able to do it. Preston Carlson has good jujitsu, so it's kind of interesting, but it would on paper it looks like Preston would have the jujitsu advantage, but Isaac training at Agima could, hopefully he's shored up some of that jujitsu. I think this one's a really good fight between two really young, fun, athletic 155ers. I'm really excited for this one.
Speaking of being excited, you can't really not be excited for this one. Jacob Baird, a 3-1 Muay Thai record, a 3-time state champion in wrestling, making his debut out of Empower MMA. On the other side is going to be Tate Martin, who we have seen with the Fierce Fighting Championship promotion for a while, coming off of that loss versus Derek Jorgensen. He's got a new up-and-coming debuter in his wake, his 4th fight in 11 months.
Yeah, one thing I like about Tate, super active, staying super active, staying super active. That's a big deal. I think that's a huge for amateurs. Um, I think his experience that he's gained, I think going that 3 rounds too with Derek against somebody with the experience level of Derek, I think that's something he can grow a lot from and he learned a lot from. And it's a fight that I know he actively wants to get back. He feels like he can go in there, put on a better show and beat Derek. And that I think that's kind of his goal and getting that, with a win over Jacob Baird, Tate's 3-1 and he's probably, one fight away from he's probably next fight would be a number 1 contender fight to get in that 145 title mix that Derek's in. So wouldn't be surprised there. Very excited to see Tate fighting back in Idaho Falls. Jacob Baird coming up to 145, 135, like you said, big time got some good Muay Thai experience, has a heavy wrestling background to go along with Tate's wrestling background. It's going to be really interesting to see their styles and who can blend it together better on Saturday night.
And I'm also going to mention this. Tate Martin does have a very, very deep wrestling background.
I was going to say, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they both have Tate's got they both have that wrestling background. Tate's got the experience in MMA. Jacob's been trying to catch up, with doing the Muay Thai stuff, which I really love to see wrestlers do. Yeah, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun.
Deshaun Gray, Nasir Davis. Zach, this is a late notice fight for Deshaun Gray. Obviously, Nasir Davis gets a new opponent when Corey Stewart was unable to fight on this date. However, when we're talking about Deshaun Gray, I texted you when I was looking at his tape and I said, man, we might have a mini version of Nasir Davis right in front of us. This is kind of 2 of the same guys fighting each other in terms of stylistic matchups. And when you talk about Nasir Davis, that's the type of style that the fans want to see.
Yeah. Believe it or not, people just weren't lining up to fight Nasir Davis. I don't know why. Um, he's really good. He's really good and he's really fun and he's really flashy. But like you said, you just go look at some of the clips from Deshaun Gray and he carries himself with that same type of charisma, the flashy kicks, the flashy style, very similar. It's going to be really interesting if they kind of fall into each other's game. Or as we saw, Nasir had the ability to, in July, when he won his last fight, he had the ability to get really tight and technical on the feet. And then he showed the ability in his growth and his grappling as well. Um, Really interested to see what kind of improvements Nasir's made now jumping to the pro ranks. And then Deshaun Gray, another one, has had a couple canceled pro debut fights, has had a hard time finding people that want to fight him. It's like another case of like, hey, if you guys can't find anybody to fight, just fight each other. And pro debut, a lot on the line to see who's can move to 1-0.
I don't love to put my opinion out there, but by a mile, this is my fight of the night. I can't wait for it. I love Nasir Davis.
It's so fun.
I had the chance to interview Khalil Roundtree when they were here for the UFC
Right.
on a one-on-one, and we actually had the chance to talk a little bit about Nasir during the interview. And it was just really cool to see a guy like Khalil Roundtree, the levels that he has gotten to, speak so highly of someone like Nasir Davis, who is just now making his pro debut. It feels like he's been a pro forever, but he just made his mark as an amateur. So super excited for that one at 135 pounds. All right. Chris Chu, Thomas Boyer. This one is so interesting. Thomas Boyer making his pro debut, hasn't fought in he has one fight, I apologize, in 3 years. Chris Chu, another quick turnaround for him. We saw the damage that he took in September, but he keeps coming forward. Maybe the most durable guy in the state, right there alongside Jerome Hatch.
For sure he is. He's a menace. Who knows? Maybe you'll see Chris True versus Jerome Hatch one day and see who's
I
the
would
most
love
durable.
to see that.
I mean, dude, he was asking me for a fight. I don't know. I'd have to look through my text. He was asking me for a fight not long after September 14th. And I was like, Chris, guy, like, you've had some rough. August was brutal. It was grueling. Got right back in there. Rough fight with Cole Schaefer, main event. Wants to get right back in there. He originally asked for December 13th, and when this opportunity arose, I was like, do you want November 16th? He's like, yes, I do. Thank you. And I was like, of course, like Chris just wants to fight. And I loved about him. And activity matters. One thing that's been so interesting with Chris is he was a guy when he fought as an amateur, he didn't sell a lot of tickets and whatever. He's gotten so active. He's built this little following in the Utah MMA community. His family comes out to the fights, but now he's starting to get people excited to see him fight too. And it's just been really cool to watch his development and his growth in that area. Thomas Boyer, interesting tidbit. Last time Thomas fought in Utah, I was in the other corner against him, against Camp Mafaleo. He is and I fought on the same card when he fought my teammate Mason Moyes for an amateur title the same night I fought for an amateur title. So Thomas Boyer is really interesting to watch this come full circle and watch how Thomas has shifted and making his pro debut now down from heavyweight to 205. It's really great to watch how his body transformation, how much different, healthier he looks now. I'm very excited to see him. He's always been just a really tough guy in there. I think Idaho Falls is in a treat because they have two just extremely tough pro light heavyweights coming to the cage
Chris Chu,
Saturday night.
just to echo what you said, what an absolute legend to fight in August, September, and this fight. And it's not like their turnarounds where it's like
April.
he didn't get in April. But it's not like those last couple of fights were walks in the park like you talked about. They've been absolute wars. And I will say also, Chris Chu did do a couple of things right. I love Cole Schaefer to death, but Chris Chu did take him down. No one's been able to do that. And so just hats off to Chris Chu for making another walk. As for Thomas Boyer, super interested to see him go down in weight class as Chris Chu goes up in weight class. Very, very fun.
By the way, so happy that Chris is at 205 because that cut to 185 was huge. I still can't believe he made 170 as an amateur at one point.
It makes no sense.
He's huge and it's muscle. Like he is a physical brute. So the physicality that Chris could show at lower weight classes was always impressive. But now he's coming up to 205, seeing a guy coming down from heavyweight. I am interested to see how that translates.
All right, here we go at 145 pounds, co-main event time for Mark Coates and Justin Horsley. Coates been around for quite some time. 82% of his wins come by submission, Zach. As for Justin Horsley, Fierce FC 1 alum. His first fight was the first fight ever for Fierce Fighting Championship. it's kind of a crazy full circle moment. The deepest alum that we have that's still fighting is Mally Rahimian, and she was a Fierce FC2 alum. This is the first fighter to ever make the Walk 4 Fierce Fighting Championship back in Idaho Falls this weekend.
I just got goosebumps. That is pretty cool. As we're approaching our 50th show, as we were just talking about January between Challenger Series and all the Fierce Championship shows, that'll be 50. This will be 49. So 1 to 49, basically. It's really cool. But I mean, another lot of history here. I used to sponsor when I was barely first insurance agent, I used to sponsor Justin Horsley when he was fighting here in Utah. I've known Justin for a long time. He's a really good dude, really exciting fighter. Mark Coates, one of the original Out of Utah Damage Plan podcasts with me and Jason Laporte guests, talking about how he actually believes he beat Sean O'Malley in Montana on the regional scene before O'Malley was a big deal and that he got screwed. If you haven't heard that story before, go look it up. It's kind of crazy. So I've known both of these guys forever. And then Justin, it looked like he was out of MMA, and then he's coming back. He was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago or whatever. Something happened with his opponent fell ill while cutting weight, couldn't make the fight. And so man, it's like one of these things. We we had to add this fight onto the card. It's a cool fight. Mark's from Idaho. He's a vet. He's fought all over. He's fought a bunch of good guys, tough guys. Go watch it. It's on YouTube. Go watch Mark Coach Sean O'Malley. It was a 3 round fight that it was supposed to be a 5 round fight. They got changed to a 3 round fight. I thought he won. Go watch it. It's interesting. Two guys that just really interesting, and in true Justin Horsley fashion, he is bringing a crowd to the Mountain America Center.
Daviante Jones, Luis Cortez, the two men on the marquee for this main event, a couple of heavyweights. Daviante Jones, the pro boxer, back after that January showing against Zeke Latu in 2023. As for Luis Cortez, we'll see what he can do, the 11-year pro, and obviously a staple in the Idaho Falls MMA scene.
Yeah, this fight, it's a big one for both of them. Devontae Jones has asked for this fight for quite some time for me. Ever since him and Zeke fought, he's asked for the Mexican Hulk. And I'm happy that the stars aligned that we could give that to him, and he's asked for it. But I will say this about the Mexican Hulk. He looked like the Mexican Hulk again when he fought Zeke Latu.
He did.
He looked very good in that fight. I thought his boxing, his footwork, everything looked like he looked when he was winning fights before he fell on this skid. And we talked about it last week. Confidence is everything, right? When the guys are on these skid, confidence is in everything. In the fights where we watched him fight Kent and Jag Bular and some of the fights that he struggled in, I don't feel like Luis was fighting to his potential, and maybe it was his confidence or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but something was right. Something was right when he fought Zeke. Zeke just hits really hard, but he looked really good. And I think if that version of Luis Cortez comes out, that final walk at the Mountain America Center, he could absolutely light that place up as their hometown guy, gets his hand raised in his hometown and gets a win in the call. I'm very interested by this fight because I like both of these guys a lot. I just think when Luis is right, he hits really hard. Cam Chisholm told me, he said, I could like feel it in my bones on one of the ones that he hit me. If he would have hit me on the right spot, it would have shut my lights off. He said that's one of the hardest I've ever been hit. And I mean, Luis is a very deceptively athletic, powerful guy, and when he can put it together, he's dangerous. He holds a couple knockout wins over our good friend Eric Eyman. He's been in there. He's been in there with Curtis Blades. He's been in there with high level guys, and he earned his way to those spots. It's always about. I think it's him versus him a lot of times, and I think if he makes that same walk, I think we could see a very, very dangerous version of Luis Cortez. I'm excited. I love when Devontae Jones, he wanted this fight He's going into Luis's backyard to make it happen. I think this is a great main event between two heavyweights, and our land of the heavyweights to cap off the night.
Luis Cortez hasn't been to a second round since February of 2016, over 8.5 years.
I don't think this one gets out of the first round either.
Well, the Idaho fans have a lot to look forward to then. What a show we have in store Saturday night. Doors open at 5. Show starts at 6. Fierce Fighting Championship 35. Tickets on sale now at fiercefightingchampionship.com. Zach, cannot wait for this. Back-to-back weekends. We can get through this. We got it.
We got it.